Hi, welcome to another episode of Roots to the Bone, the channel where we meet some of the greatest ska and reggae trombonists from all around the world. And my guest this week is Mr. Clark Gayton from New York City. Hi, Clark. Great to meet you. I have a little resume here, which it's quite long. I'm just going to whiz through it and just say a few things that you've done. So, as well as having played with the Skatalites and Steel Pulse, which, if that wasn't enough, Clark has played with Wyclef Jean, Bad Brains, Lionel Hampton, McCoy Tyner, Quincy Jones, Sting, Queen Latifah, Whitney Houston, Stevie Wonder, and Bruce Springsteen, and I've left quite a few out. So that gives you some idea of this man's caliber. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. How is it in New York City today?
It's not bad. It's been cold lately, and the weather's kind of warmed up maybe a tick or two, but not much.
Can you speak into your mic a little bit more? It's a little bit quiet.
Oh, how's that?
Much better.
Yeah. It's been cold in New York lately.
Yeah.
The last couple of days maybe up a tick or two, but it's still pretty cold.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't wait for spring.
So my first question that I ask everyone is, what was the moment you discovered ska, reggae, and your introduction to how you came to play ska and reggae trombone? I know you do a whole lot more. You're a jazz musician, and all sorts. But tell me about your route into ska and reggae, because that's what this channel is ultimately about.
Well, what happened is that at one point after leaving school, I went to Berkeley in Boston, and I came back to the Bay Area. I went back to the Bay Area to see what I can do there, because I didn't really have any idea what I was going to do musically. I just graduated and said, well, let's start there, see what happens. And I hooked up with a band called the Rhythmatics, who was a world beat band at the time. And when that craze was big, world beat music was really big in that area. So it was a world beat band. We played African-based music, Latin stuff, and we played ska. And we did, I think, China Clipper and like Man in the Street, that sort of thing. And I had never heard the music before. And so they were telling me, I think when I first started playing it, I was probably playing it like the Basie band or something. So they were trying to get me up on it. So they hit me to Don Drummond with that band, the Rhythmatics. So that's how I got introduced to it.
Straight to the source then.
Yeah. And we were doing bills with a lot of others, like the Slackers and all the Madness, all we're doing shows with them, so I had to get it together pretty quick.
Mm-hmm. And as a trombonist, what was your initial impression when you discovered Don Drummond's playing, his particular style? How did that affect you and influence you?
Well, it was very interesting. I mean, the thing, he was a folk hero in a lot of circles. That I learned that very quickly, because when I started playing, people were telling me, you should check this record out, and so people were pulling my coat to a lot. So, but there was something about his playing that created almost a cult following. So I figured, and so what did strike me about his playing is just how vocal sounding. It was just like he was making these statements, and he was not shy to make the trombone sound like a trombone. Nothing was the glisses were all valid, different types of articulations that you could only do on the trombone. In a lot of other idioms, they tried to erase that, but he embraced it, and that his style was just apparent immediately.
Okay, so you mean, as a non-musician, I'm trying to understand what that means. Yeah. So the actual instrument itself, it's meant to kind of, in some subconscious way, you're not meant to think this is
in most 20th century music, the trombone is not the featured instrument. There's only a
Right.
handful of trombone players that were able to stand out as a soloist. Like Tommy Dorsey, Benny Green, and you have Don Drummond. And he could stand on his. He made his own records as a soloist. I mean,
Mhm.
it's kind of unheard of,
Yeah.
especially in this day and age. I mean, I certainly can't come up with Clark Gayton on trombone. Maybe I can. I don't know, but you don't think of the trombone as being a lead instrument, and so your style has to be very well established and very apparent in order to be able to take that on. Not anybody can do it.
Tell me more about Don's particular style, Clark.
Yeah, I think I was saying earlier, it's a very vocal. A lot of people say it's like a very vocal style. It's very. His delivery was a lot like that of a vocalist. Very a lot of bravado. And just a lot of confidence. And just the whole range of expression. With the pointed notes, the staccatos and legatos, and just the lyric delivery, very very unique.
And you played in the Skatalites, right?
Yes, I played with the Skatalites. I got a call from Tommy McCook himself,
Oh, you
and
played during that era when Tommy
yeah,
had.
in the '80s. Yeah, in the
Okay.
'80s. So he called me up, and I, like I said, I just got done playing with the Rhythmatics, and in this, he introduced me to Don Drummond and all that sort of thing. So I actually get a call from Tommy McCook. I was like, really? Uh, he said, yeah, I want to know if you like to play with the Skatalites. I said, yeah, sure. I had no idea what to expect, and it was really a huge part of my life playing alongside those guys.
So that was the 80s. So you were part of that original Skatalites Reformation down in
Yeah,
New York City.
yes. Don was Lloyd Knibb, Lloyd Brevitt, Dorian Schaefer, uh, Tommy McCook, Roland Alfonso, Lester Sterling. Uh, we had we had got a local keyboard player at the time, and Devin James was on guitar. So it was a great lineup.
Do you mind me asking, how old were you when this phone call came out of the blue?
Uh, I was
You don't have to say.
approximately. No, I don't mind. I've never really thought about it, but I'd have to say I was around 27.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So, as a young man, just landing the gig it was a miracle that the Skatalites ever reformed at all. It was kind of, to those of us who were already fans at that point, it was like the second coming, it's just absolutely something unthinkable. So to be part of that, uh,
Oh man, it was crazy, and the shows we did in Europe and especially the UK were bonkers.
I
It
was
was
there in the UK in the Town and Country Club in London, which later became the Forum um, in Kentish Town.
it was about 89 or something like that, 88
Oh, no, no, this was about
or 90.
91, 1991.
Uh, very good chance that was me.
Yeah. Okay. And at that point, did they, I'm curious to know, did the Skatalites have a plan at that point? Did anyone think, right, they're going to go around the world and just keep on going and going, and like this is going to be.
Absolutely not.
No.
They had very they had very they had very little to no plan at all. I think they just got an idea. They thought it would be a good idea to get back together. I'm sure a lot of people were telling them to do that,
Yeah.
and Tommy just put it together. Tommy was, from my estimation, he always was the band leader because it actually started off as Tommy McCook and the Skatalites. That was the original name.
Yeah, you can see that on some of the photos on the
Yeah,
band little headers at the front of the
yeah.
stage. It says that. Yeah.
And he was very much the band leader during my tenure. Yeah, he had all the music written out of all the songs, all in a little
Okay.
folder. And he got the band together. He was very very hands on with the rhythm section, like in terms of making sure the groove was right. And he changed some things from the record. So it was very cool to see. But they just started doing gigs, and a lot of colleges started picking them up doing gigs. So we were doing stuff around Connecticut, Boston area, and all those ska clubs that were around at that time. We played in all those places. So we did the uh, northeastern kind of circuit. Sometimes we get down to Florida, but mostly just up and down the East Coast. And then we went out to California a couple times.
Mhm. Well, I remember the show in London really well, and I remember Tommy and Roland just looking really like serious jazz dudes. And
Oh yeah, well that's the thing. I think when we're getting back to what you originally asked, did they have a plan? They were musicians. That's all they wanted to do was play music.
okay,
So there wasn't really any plan in place. They didn't really have any management of any sorts. So they really were just it was really hand to mouth.
wow. At what point? What was the turning point? When did it really kind of take off?
The band.
Yeah.
Well, it was very gradual. We're like I said, we're doing mostly colleges, and
Mhm.
they're like teenagers, man, and people in their early 20s, and they were going crazy in these
Wow.
shows, and it just kept on going, getting started just picking up speed, and then we got in touch with a couple of promoters, English promoters, and they kind of helped get to the next level. And then when we got back to the States, those two English promoters help the Skatalites in the States, and then they're able to get bigger shows. You know?
Hmm.
But that was, I think, that time that I was doing that early period in the late '80s, early '90s. I think musically that was the peak. These guys, everybody was in top form, and
Yeah.
there was these shows sometimes that were just otherworldly. I mean, the stage would levitate. They knew how to create this sort of energy where it seemed like the band was levitating, and
Yeah.
they knew how to do that every night. It was fascinating to watch. Not
Wow.
they had
Wow.
full command of that.
Wow. So you're so fortunate to have been right at the heart of that.
Oh man, it was something else. I never forgot it, and I'm still try to achieve that. I'd like to be able to get back to doing that because I know what it feels like, and I watched them do it, so I know it's possible.
Mm,
But
mm.
that's kind of a personal goal of mine is to be able to achieve that,
Yeah.
like they do.
There's an album that they recorded um, called Stretching Out, which was recorded in like 1981 in Jamaica in the Blue Monk Jazz Gallery. And that has that feeling of transcendence about it.
Yeah,
And I guess that's the nearest you'll ever know to what the Skatalites might have sounded like in the 60s, because it's pretty much everyone is there.
yeah, yeah,
Even Jar Jerry on guitar.
yeah.
Uh, I think Jackie
Well, I mean,
Little.
I mean, I remember talking to Tommy about why the blue beat was created or the rock steady because he said that the ska would get so frantic and so hot. Everything would just get to the point where people were exhausted, they're sweating, they're tired. So they just took the same thing and just divided the time in half
Mm,
the tempo and half the
mm,
intensity just to cool the party down. And then they get right back to the ska, but they would use the ska and the rock steady just to kind of pace the audience. So I mean, these guys were capable of a lot of major damage in those early years.
yeah. So if you could go back in time to Jamaica, is there any particular producer that you would like to work with?
Uh, I Cox and Dodd I had worked with actually when we went Skatalites. We went to Jamaica once, and we went to Cox and Dodd's studio, and we did some recording there. So I
Oh,
did
how
get
was that?
very interesting.
Yeah.
Unlike anything I'd ever seen before, it was very odd, but it was
In what way?
it all made sense. I think there was like the amplifiers were bolted to the floor. It was like a big bolt, and so nothing could be moved. They were literally bolted to the floor. So every amp and mic stand was bolted to the floor, so nobody could move it because the studio had a sound. So
Right.
everything had to be in the exact same place. So just anybody just moving any element of that is going to change the sound. I guess that's what the logic was. So everything was ground. So yeah, nothing moved, but it sounds so. But when you go into the control room after you do a take, you're like, oh, okay. Oh, that's what this is. It's the real thing. But I other than that, I'd like to. King Tubby would have been a nice producer to work for. I think.
Yeah.
I think in regards to what I do.
And the Skatalites were remixed by King Tubby, weren't they?
Yeah, I think that whole relationship was played a big part of what I do now. That relationship, the King Tubby and the remix of the Skatalite tunes and those sessions. Yeah,
I think that's my all-time favorite dub album, and I think it's the only dub album in existence that has upright bass, acoustic bass throughout on every single track. I can't think of any other dub album that has that.
Yeah, and it sounds so wicked. It's just amazing.
It's funky as hell, and you would never notice the Skatalites actually.
Well, and the thing is, if you really listen to it, it's you hear Lloyd Brevet doing his thing, and during my tenure with the Skatalites, Brevet never played the same thing twice. It was always different. He's always inventing. He's always pushing the rhythm and trying to get the energy to its optimum. So, and they captured that on that record. You can hear him kind of changing and bubbling around and flipping things around. And it's always funky, like you said.
And just what were the tracks recorded at Studio One, and are they even available?
Oh, the things that we did, I have no idea what happened to that record. We did something else with Prince Buster. We went. The Skatalites went down to Florida and spent 2 or 3 days down with Prince Buster's studio in Florida, and I can't even remember how many tracks, but it was a lot, and I don't know where any of that stuff is.
Wow. Maybe it will resurface someday, like the Rolling Steady.
Sure.
Rolling Steady resurface. I mean,
they're waiting for me to hit 80, and then they'll bring it out.
Yeah, I mean, they've got to exist somewhere.
Somebody has them. They're nice, and the good thing about those recordings, it was Roland, Tommy, Lester Sterling, and myself. So it was a good lineup, front line.
Wow, it's just the very thought of it in existence somewhere in somebody's loft, waiting to be discovered.
Well, somebody found a tape that I did. I did a record with Tommy and the Supersonics. Tommy McCook and the Supersonics, and we recorded it right before he passed away. And somebody found the tape of that, and they put it out on CD. So that's really cool. That's a cool record. It's Tommy, but it's not. Roland's not on it, so I think Lloyd is on it, and Val Douglas is on bass.
Okay, if anyone wants to track that down, what label would that be on? Do you know?
I can't remember. It's some company just hacked the recording and just kind of pirate thing on it,
Yeah, seek and ye shall find.
Yeah, it's out there. I wish I had a copyright. I saw it on this. Somebody was selling it at a club recently, and I said, "That's nice." Sure enough, it was the CD. But
wow, that's like. Oh, okay. So I'd love to just find out a little bit about the early, the attempts to get back in the studio that actually did make it to our living rooms, which was the first one was that Skavuvi? Was that the first actual official Skatalites release once they'd reformed in the 90s?
Yeah, by that time I was no longer in the band.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, by that Skavuvi. Yeah, that's I forget, Shanachie. That was on Shanachie label. Yeah. So that started their so by that time I think everybody's health started declining and started getting a little older, but it's still great stuff.
Yeah, because I've always been curious about those records, because I guess they had to find out for themselves what is the Skatalites in the digital recording age. And this is not the era of Jamaican producers churning out single after single, week in, day in, day out. This is a whole different thing.
Yes.
And it's a different sound, you know, it's a whole different Skatalites, really. But I guess if you weren't there, then.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's so there are some recordings from those days that we did a couple shows at the Melkweg in Holland, and there's some bootlegs out there that are actually quite good. What's his name? I can't remember. I'll get you the name of that stuff, but there's some really good bootlegs out there.
Okay, that'd be great to have on the text below this video. So if anyone wants to check that out, it'd be really, really useful, because you know what collectors are like. They're obsessive. If they know something's out there, they will, you know.
Yeah, these are a must-have if you're into the Scats, because if the band is just completely on fire, you know.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I want to hear it. So, well, it's probably we can round it off there. Thank you very much for talking to me today, Clark. And just before we finish off, I just want to ask you if you can add a couple of tracks to our rolling Spotify trombone themed playlist that I'm putting together. Do you have a couple of tunes?
I actually have been working on the tune "Rain from the Skies." It has a trombone feature. I believe it's Don Jr. playing the trombone lead on that, and it has
Vin Gordon.
Vin Gordon, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's him playing the trombone lead on that. So that's been on my mind a lot lately. And on my gigs, I play a track called African Beat that I really dig by Don, you know.
African Beat.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that a Don Drummond tune or a Vin Gordon tune? Because that's a rock steady tune. And
yeah, I think it's a Don Drummond tune.
Really? Okay. Yeah, I know the one. Yeah. I do believe that's Vin Gordon, because Don was actually, well, yeah, Don Drummond didn't record any.
Oh, you know what? You're right. You know why? Because it was a record that they marked Don Drummond, and it was not him at all.
Yeah, so Coxon did some sneaky stuff with his marketing. Yeah. He put for that and Heavenless as well. To this day, it's put out.
Absolutely. That's exactly the collection I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's not Don. Don was incarcerated in 65, early 60, literally from New Year's Day, 65. Yeah. And Rocksteady didn't really happen until, you know, a year later. So any Rocksteady tunes that say Don Drummond on, they're definitely not Don Drummond. They're Don Drummond Jr., right. Which is Vin Gordon.
Right. All right. Well, thanks for the correction. Yeah, but those are the things I've been listening to, and I have my ear to. Were you thinking about as something of ska in particular?
Yeah. Well, ska, Rocksteady, you know. But yeah, if you've got a ska tune as well to throw in the mix, great. Any original Don tunes that particularly stand out?
What was it? Oh, was it Reburial?
Yeah.
Was that one? Yeah.
Also known as the Reburial of Marcus Garvey.
Exactly. I play that tune quite a bit, so that's a good one to check out.
Yeah.
You know, that's a beautiful theme.
Mm-hmm. Those tunes, you know, the Skatalites did an incredibly varied amount of styles in their brief time they were together, and I like all of it.
It was just a matter of a few years, wasn't it?
It was actually 14 months that they were officially together.
That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, and it was only about 6 or 7 months before Don, you know, the tragedy with him and Margarita happened. So yeah, it was a really brief, or maybe it was longer than that actually. No, that's not right. It was longer than that, but you know, it was just a flash that they were around. But in that time, they did record like literally hundreds of tunes, and they were recording together before they officially became the Skatalites as well. You know, they played on tons of stuff, but they officially kind of cemented as a band, as an official band in 64. And it was just, you know, about 14 months. And then they split into 2 different groups. But that particular tune you chose, that's a great, for me, that's like the more driving kind of hypnotic,
Yeah, right.
really sort of trancey,
Yeah,
the end of the Skatalites, which, you know, to me, that's what I love most about the Skatalites. You know, because some
yeah,
of it can veer into elevator music a bit, which is great. I love all that too. But you know,
yeah.
it's those really driving tunes that, you
Oh
know,
yeah, that's what it is. I mean, I remember the drummer Lloyd Knibb would always talk about, well, the ska is all about that that double time feel. He said that has to be there in order for it to be ska. So he, any chance he get, he would always bring that point up. So, and that song in particular is a good demonstration of that. You know.
mm. Well, thanks again, Clark, for coming on, and it's been great chatting to you. Really interesting to hear all this Skatalites history, and thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the interview, then please do subscribe and like below, and stay tuned for the next one next week. See you next time.